All right, it looks like the recording is going. All right, so, whoops, sorry, hit the button a little too quickly. Well, welcome to the first ever Cube.js Monthly Community Call. My name is Ray Paik, and I think I met some of the community members on the call, either via Zoom or email or Slack, so it's certainly nice to meet you synchronously, although this is still virtual. I'm a head of community. I just joined the company about almost a month ago now. I think my first day was October 12th, so almost a month, and it's been fun getting up to speed and getting to know the community members. And one of the things that we wanted to start was improve. I mean, we already had a great communication that were happening on Slack channel, for instance, but I thought this having a monthly call where we get together synchronously is something that would be productive. So thanks for joining, and then hopefully this becomes a long-running tradition. And the goal is to have this on the second Wednesday of each month. I mean, obviously with holidays and whatnot in the future, we might move things around, but this is sort of the time period that the time slot that we're gonna stick with, and we'll see how it goes. Just a quick word. I mean, you'll see us doing this with a lot of our meetings and events. Just wanted to remind everybody that we have a community code of conduct, like all good open source projects. I mean, this may sound obvious, but we definitely want to foster a welcoming and open environment where people feel comfortable and people feel they belong. I won't read through the whole details of the code of conduct, but you can see the text, full text there in our repo in case you haven't read it. And then we just made an update yesterday, I believe it was. We noticed that the email address that was listed there in the code of conduct was out of date, so we just updated it to conduct@cube.dev. And I'm one of the person who receive an email if there's any reporting or anything that needs to be addressed. I mean, hopefully we won't see a lot of email that's coming to that alias, but that's available for any remediation that's necessary. But just wanted to quickly remind people of that. Before we jump into the agenda, I thought it would be nice for the CubeDev team members to quickly introduce themselves. Let's see. I'll just start. RTM, do you mind starting, and then we'll go through the list of people that are on the call to quickly introduce themselves. So.
Sure. Thank you, Ray. Hi everyone. My name is Artyom. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of company Cube.dev, which we are developing Cube.js. I probably have chatted with many of you already on Slack calls, but it's great to meet you all, and really excited to kick off our community calls, and just excited about the future of all the improvements in communications and all our upcoming community work. Thank you everyone for joining today.
Cool. Pavel, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Pavel. I'm co-founder and CTO at Cube.dev. So yeah, as Artyom already mentioned, and Ray as well, so this calls is mostly for communication, for open discussion of changes we'll do in Cube.js. So yeah, please feel free to ask any questions and start any discussions about what we do. So we designed this community calls to basically get some feedback from community. So this is, you should consider this as a tool to influence our roadmap, our design decisions, and so on. Yeah, please feel free to join discussions. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Pavel. Dmitry, I think you're up next.
Hey everyone, so I'm Dmitry, so I'm working in Cube.dev. I'm one of the developers who's working on open source. Feel free to ask any questions inside Slack, GitHub, or anything where you can. That's all, I think.
Cool, thanks. Igor, I think you're up next.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. I'm Igor, developer advocate here at CubeDev. And I'm doing everything possible to make Cube.js more accessible to you, the developers, and to help you succeed with Cube.js and also improve your developer experience. So basically, I look forward to seeing more feedback from you on these community calls and doing great things together. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Igor. Anton, I think you're next.
Oh, hi. I'm Anton, and I'm product designer in Cube.js, and I made mostly all visual parts, what you can see on website, on documentation, and in our future products.
Cool. Thanks, Anton. Alex?
Oh, hi, everybody. I'm Alex. I've joined the CubeDev team for about 6 months now, and I'm focusing mostly on front end. So yeah, tell me if you have any questions. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Alex. I think we have one more. Hassan, I think you're next.
Hi, everyone. I'm a developer advocate at Cube.js. I work with Ray and Igor to improve the developer experience. Right now I'm working on docs, and yeah, I'd appreciate any feedback, any ideas you guys have.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. I don't think I missed anybody. Cool. So it's a quick introduction. So what we want to discuss today, I have a quick agenda. I mean, since this is our first call, I want to talk about goals of the call. I think Pavel and our team already mentioned what I mean. We want to get out of the call as CubeDev, but we want to hear from community members as well. Want to do a quick recap on community news. You may have seen some announcements on like Slack and even on like a GitHub activities in the past few weeks, but I want to provide a quick recap. And the third thing here is we want to talk about, I mean, this is somewhat like an anticlimactic because we're already sort of halfway into the quarter. But we want to be transparent about what Pavel and the rest of the engineering team is working on in terms of what we call roadmap items. So I want to talk about, I think there are 5 epics that we created in terms of our roadmap items in Q4. And this is something that we want to do on a regular basis. At least once a quarter, we want to talk about, you know, what we're planning on doing. So hopefully in Q1, we'll do this in January. So we communicate that early in the quarter versus doing it in the middle of the quarter. And as Pavel mentioned, any questions that you have, I mean, don't feel like you need to wait till the end. I think I have a Q&A slide towards the end, but I mean, I personally don't mind when people interrupt me to ask questions if I'm not being clear. You can either verbalize it or I mean, use a chat function on Zoom, and we'll try to keep an eye on those. So let me jump into the formal agenda. So the goals of the call. You know, if you work, I mean, the number of people I talk to, you have a lot of experience working in open source communities. And great thing about open source project is that a lot of the work you can do asynchronously. And then, I mean, you don't have to worry about really even think about what time zone other people are in. You're just able to organize your work asynchronously. But I think, you know, from my experience, you know, previously working at companies like GitLab or Linux Foundation, I mean, there is certainly value to people coming together synchronously. You know, face-to-face is great, but even virtually, having a sort of an item on your calendar so that there's a regular meeting for people to get together to build relationship is pretty important. So we'll, you know, convey a lot of news and updates on the project. I mean, both from a technical standpoint, product standpoint, and also in the community. But this is also an opportunity for you to provide feedback outside of Slack. So we want to make this as interactive as possible and even generate like a new ideas and start new discussions. You know, I anticipate that at least for the first few months, like, you know, people from CubeDev will see a lot of the discussions and lead a lot of the agenda topics. But going forward, we would love to have community members take active role in leading discussions on things like your use cases or some of the challenges that you're seeing. So if there are any topics that you like to sort of lead during future calls, please let us know, and happy to add those as agenda topics. And having these like forums for everybody to get together, it's not just I think it just goes beyond like a transaction of like conveying information or sharing information. What I've seen is that it's a really effective tool for like a building community of network amongst community members, whether professionally or even personally. What I've seen, particularly my last job at GitLab, people go beyond just making contributions, whether it's code or filing a bug. What I've noticed was that a lot of people, even outside of doing their work for the project, they form like relationships with each other, like almost offline, sometimes offline. And we love seeing that because that makes community vibrant and pretty healthy. So that's something like that we like to get out of by having these forums, like the monthly calls. I mean, if you have other ideas in terms of like we noted a number of times, any suggestions and feedback on these calls, I mean, feel free to type them either in Zoom here or feel free to like DM any one of us on Slack, and happy to have further discussions. And we really want to make this our community call versus us just conveying information from the corporation. So moving on, so quick news items, and some of these you may have seen already. I think our team in particular looked at other open source communities and how they're organizing Slack conversations, and we try to copy and sort of mimic a lot of good practices that we've seen in other communities. We added like 2 channels in particular, announcements and introductions. And because what was happening, what we noticed was that like all the discussions were happening in just one channel, basically in the general channel, and then information basically gets buried in between people's like questions about like issues using Cube, or if they get stuck with something, you ask questions, and things like funding announcement and other news item gets buried. So we created an announcement channel to post any news items there. And I thought the introduction channels have been great over the past couple of weeks. I met a lot of people. I follow up with a lot of introduction posts like offline to have phone conversations. So I thought, I've been very happy with a lot of introductions that people are making. And we definitely want to make people feel welcome after their posts. So those are like 2 new channels, and those are channels that people basically get auto subscribed to when they join, along with general and other channels that we have. The other item that you may have seen, this is like a real subtle one, but here's a screenshot of Igor's post on the newsletter. And we wanted to sort of distinguish CubeDev team members, so it's easy to sort of identify. So you'll see a Cube logo next to our names, and it's sort of in the status field. So that's another. It might seem like a small item, but we want to make it easy for community members to identify who the CubeDev team members are. So those are like 2 quick changes on Slack, and we'll want to move on to GitHub. We added like a few labels. I mean, if you've been active on our repo, either with issues or PRs, you may have seen it. I'll highlight the second one first. It's called PR:community. We wanted to basically highlight like a pull request that's been opened by community members versus QDev employees. So this will make it easier to sort of not only highlight community contribution, but also this will make it easier for things like doing reporting and metrics that we plan on doing later on. And we hope to even automate this like pretty soon. So as soon as somebody outside of the QDev team member group opens a PR at least once a day, the label should be automatically added, but that's something that we're working on right now. And the two other ones like Epic and Roadmap, this sort of ties into the roadmap discussion that we're going to have. Like I mentioned earlier, we want to be very transparent about what we're working on in terms of our roadmap items, at least on a quarterly basis. So we created those Epic and Roadmap labels. You see the roadmap label for Q4, and I just created one for Q1 2021 a couple of days ago as well. So you'll probably see that if you list all the labels in our repo. Let's see, moving on. So the final community news is for what we're, in order to make roadmap items like easy to spot, we'll be creating a project. So if you go under GitHub, like, you'll see a number of projects that are listed there. I mean, there aren't that many. I think the projects were used like last year for some of the work, but we're going to use this for roadmap projects like going forward. So if you go click on that link, project number 6, it'll show you the epics, all the epics for Q4. So the roadmap project typically will have anywhere between 4 to 6 like epics for major roadmap items. So it'll be easy for community members to spot. So you'll see an average about like a 5 roadmap epics is what we're gearing for. But obviously on a quarter by quarter basis, the numbers may vary, but I think the average will be around 5-ish. Moving right along. So if you click on like each of these epics, and Pavel will go over all the Q4 items in detail, so I won't spend a whole lot of time on it. So epics will have a brief description on the motivation for the epic and what the plans and goals are. So once you click on each of the epic items, you should be able to see some of the details and what the team is working on. And the related pull requests should have like these epic issues sort of listed as like related issue items. So hopefully that'll make things more transparent and help us actually organize our work. And we want to do this transparently. I think I've been doing a lot of talking. RTM, like, was there anything else that you want to add about some of the community news items?
Thank you, Ray. Yeah, I think that's all great. And I mentioned already that we plan, to share more of the roadmap. So I just want to say that moving forward, starting this quarter, we'll kind of constantly update the epics, and we'll release new epics every quarter, and all the issues when they got submitted by our community, they would be either we'll indicate that we'll work on this during this quarter, or maybe if it's not outside of our roadmap, it means that we ask all the community members, to contribute to that. We still would be happy to review NPR. We just don't have any resources to work on this. But if we, we'll work on this, we'll add a roadmap label. I think that we are good here, and just would be great to go through some biggest updates for this quarter. And I think that Ray or Pavel, you can take it from there.
Sure. Okay, I got a couple more slides to cover, and then as I noticed, I tend to talk a little too fast sometimes. So if I'm talking too fast, please stop me and ask questions on Zoom, or just go on, like, unmute and ask your questions. Just one other slide before we go to roadmap, then I'll turn things over to Pavel. So this is like week 4 into my job, but we're also thinking about putting a more formal contributor program. It's obviously work in progress. We just started putting some thoughts into this, and there are 4 areas that I want to look at over the next couple of months. The first one is onboarding. As new community members join a community, they often struggle with, first of all, finding out what their project is, where they can contribute, and what kind of contributions they can make, and where they can get help. So even things like putting together a dedicated web page, on our website for new contributors. Like a contributor landing page is something that we're thinking about. So you might see some updates on this soon. And the second one is actually, I mean, I alluded to this earlier, is metrics. And we obviously have a lot of community members on Slack and a lot of contributions on GitHub, but it'd be nice to have a nice dashboard that sort of highlight a lot of people's work. So that's something that yeah, we're thinking about internally, and hopefully we'll have an update on this as well. And the third one is recognition. We have a lot of community members that are doing great work, and we want to do a better job of sort of highlighting the wonderful contributions that everyone's making, and then take a moment to sort of celebrate great contributions from community members. So recognition is a third item. And the last one is actually related to events. I mean, right now we're, due to COVID-19, a lot of the in-person events are obviously like on hold, but there are virtual events that are going on. And if you've been to like a good event over the past few months, even if it's virtual, that you feel that it's worth us like thinking about in terms of like participations or even giving talks in the future, please let us know. And if you want to give a talk yourselves at other conferences and need our help in terms of even things like CFPs or putting together slides or reviewing your slides, we're more than happy to do that. So just let us know, and also let us know about some of the events that we should be thinking about as we're planning for 2021. So those are the 4 items that we're thinking of in terms of the more formal contributor program. It's early days, but love to get your feedback. And if you've seen anything from other communities that you worked in that you thought worked really well, love to hear that, suggestions and feedback as well. So before I turn things over to Pavel, again, just wanted to show you this screenshot of the Q4 Roadmap project. So we basically have 4 columns or swim lanes, if you will. So we on the left we have the epics. So you see the 5 epics that we have for Q4, and then you have like a relevant issues or pull requests and like a 3 stages. Like either it's to do, like work still needs to be done, work that are in progress, and finally like work that are already done. Since we're already like in the middle of the quarter, a lot of the work has actually been done by people like Dimitri and others. But if probably in Q1 when we do an update for Q1 roadmap items in January, you'll probably see most of the items in either to do or in progress. So that's where things are. I mean, hopefully this makes it easy for people to follow the work we're doing. And I'll turn things over to Pavel, and then Pavel will walk through, and Pavel and Hassan will walk through several of the epic items. Pavel, do you want me to just continue sharing the slides, or do you want to?
Yeah, sure, please do so.
Okay, cool.
It will be helpful. Yeah, Ray, thank you. Let's jump into the roadmap. I would like to highlight 3 bigger changes in this quarter. So first one is this transition to microservice architecture. Earlier users of Cube.js probably most of them were used Express to some extent to basically either just under the hood of Cube.js or even embedding it. So, and it's probably this stuff can be affecting all of these early users in some capacity. However, we want to make this transition as smooth as possible. So the main idea behind this change is that we figure out that many of people who are embedding Express, Cube.js in the Express application, they sooner or later are facing some interesting issues that a consequence of using same process space of Node.js like for their application and Cube.js. And we figure out that usually applications that people use as an Express application should be scaled very differently from those who, like from those parts of Cube.js, which is like basically executed by Cube.js. What we decided to do is basically we decided to move like Docker way here. So from recent release, we made the default template for Cube.js applications to be Docker template, and like all the old template like Express template is basically works like as usual. I think no one should be affected by these changes. Like, I mean, none of existing code. So everything should be backward compatible here. However, going on, we'll not support like this Express embedding use case. So we want to basically here have this kind of separation of Express and Cube.js. We probably even down the road we can like replace Express with something different on and so on. So going further, Cube.js from that point will be a kind of microservice, which should be hosted like as usual for microservices as separate, usually as separate Docker container and like probably cluster of these containers. There should be roles, separate roles from refresh, scatterers, and so on. So this is kind of significant move. Yeah, we would love to like your thoughts on it, like just a little bit later. Yeah, yeah. Right. Can you switch to next slide? Yeah. Next one is a one of I would say one of the bigger changes of front end for Cube.js. So we have several efforts here in terms of moving forward with front end of Cube.js, which is we want to make sure every major framework, UI framework, is supported the same way as React supported right now. So we did recently and released recently some significant changes to Angular integration, and kind of this is Vue integration. And we have also Ricardo on the call, who was the very first contributor to the Vue integration. Yeah, I would like to thank you, Ricardo, for providing this stuff for us in the early days. And going further, so we expect here some significant improvements of Vue integration as well as Angular to make sure that like all of the capabilities like query builder, like dynamic dashboard tabs, all the stuff like that works well in React will be ported to all of like major UI frameworks. And this is basically part of this like bigger effort. And the next one is pretty major update for like Cube.js infrastructure side. This comes right now as an optional stuff. However, in future we envision as like a standard and default way of doing pre-aggregations. So the idea is we collected feedback from like a lot of users using external pre-aggregations, and we see like external pre-aggregations as a most popular way of using pre-aggregations. The reason for it, people want to like ensure fixed response times for their customers and users, because like Cube.js usually used in like customer facing applications, and there is a strict SLA basically here. And what we figure out that current implementations of external pre-aggregations rely on MySQL and Postgres a lot, and those are most used databases to use as external pre-aggregations target. But if you want to like work with really big pre-aggregations like really high cardinality tables around 1 billion rows or so, those like relational databases were never designed to work with those stuff. And also there are cases where like you would like to have like hyperlocal support, or or you have like a lot of partitions because you're like updating your data incrementally. And those are all cases like this relational databases were never designed to solve. And we looked about like last 6 months for different solutions, how we can approach this problem. And what we decided eventually, that if we go and try to solve this problem like using any existing database like on the market, or like open source database, so we eventually end up modifying its code base, basically adding some changes to core of this database. And what we finally decided is to go with our own like OLAP cache store. So it will be basically part of Cube.js. We write it from scratch in Rust. However, it's based on very well established technologies like RocksDB, Apache Parquet, and Apache Arrow. So yeah, we expect here like our goal is to provide some kind of OLAP caching layer that is suitable to provide fixed response time. In the first release, we are aiming for like latencies under 200 milliseconds for every response that comes from users. Yeah, so like regarding Cubestore, right now is, I would say, in developer preview. There is no documentation yet about how to install it and stuff like that. We'll add some initial documentation soon, and you can participate in this development process. And if you would like to try it out, you can just ping me, and we can arrange some basically some testing here. Yeah, I think that's it from my side.
Yeah, we'll just pause here. I mean, I think we skipped the one for Angular on purpose because it's very similar to Vue. But I mean, any questions for Pavel on the three, or I mean, even including the Angular one that people have any questions on? Yeah, if you think of others, I mean, please let us know either on Slack or I mean, feel free to send me an email too. I guess Hassan, I think the last epic is regarding documentation, so I'll let you cover that. So.
Hi everyone. So we've noticed that Cube.js documentation can, in some places, be improved. A lot of people come to Slack and they have questions that sometimes do have answers in the docs, and it's unfortunate that they had to come to Slack to find those answers. So part of what we're doing is to improve how the navigation structure of the documentation, so things are surfaced a bit more at a high level for you to find. We're also improving the look and feel, so this includes things like changing the fonts, adding more spacing, making the information look less dense so it's easier for you to read. And finally, we wanted to improve our content itself, so we'd like to document various features that we have in more detail, so that you guys can understand all the implications, whether that's in terms of pre-aggregations, if that's performance, things you can do to improve performance, things that would decrease the performance. And yeah, that's basically the overall plan for this quarter, is to try and get you guys some good documentation.
Cool. Thanks, Hassan. Any questions on documentation? I mean, this is obviously important, not just for users, but community members in general. And then I feel like this is a area that's oftentimes simpler for community members to contribute, like either with like a simple PRs. I mean, feel free to ping me and Hassan on any documentation related stuff, and happy to jump on that as well. It looks like there's, like, I think Ricardo had a comment about Vue 3. Since that was just released, we should just also cover that. Pavel, I don't know if you want to address it or not.
Yeah, so thanks, Ricardo, for providing feedback. Yeah, so yeah, Vue 3, so so we are going, I think we are going to cover this one. Yeah, thanks for noting. I think when we'll release this new Vue integration, so this one should be covered. And yeah, also, yeah, there is some feedback on documentation regarding undocumented stuff. Yeah, we have it's a long long story about this, like documentation of all kind of undocumented stuff. We indeed have some places which is kind of not documented well, and this is like continuous ongoing process of catching up documentation with the code base. And yeah, so yeah, thanks for noting this. Yeah, basically chart pivot and table pivot methods. We'll take a note and like reuse the documentation. Yeah, thanks. It's very helpful.
Yeah, thanks for those comments. I'm trying to add it to the notes page for this meeting, so we can follow up on those too. So, and yeah, I mean, I wasn't sure, Hassan, that you wanted to add anything there or not regarding documentation.
Not particularly,
No.
other than
Okay.
it's on our roadmap. We're looking at it.
Right. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Thanks for your comments. This is definitely helpful, and this is why we're doing these calls. I'll add them to the notes, and we'll follow up on those under like action items.
Yeah, if anyone else have any like questions or comments, just please feel free to like either like post them to Zoom chat or probably just ask.
Yep. All right, I think that brings us to the end of our materials. Like, any other questions? I mean, I was just counting the number of attendees. Like, I mean, to be honest, like I didn't fully expect like 18 people to join the call, so I'm really thrilled. So I mean, so for first meetings, like you're never quite sure like how this is going to go, but I'm like, it's great to see a lot of familiar faces and like new names that are on the call. So really appreciate you joining. Cool. No questions? Like, I'll give it. Oh, JC, go ahead. Like, I don't know if you want to verbalize it or type it on chat.
Yeah, sure. I was just thinking in the past, I've gone like searching for error message or other people that have had like a similar problem. And I go looking on Slack and I get that message, oh, we might have the answer, but sorry, you can only go back 10,000 messages. So just FYI, if you consider that as a source of like documentation in some sense, increasing that limit could be a quick win. I'm not sure what that would take, but just a thought.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let our team like address that too, because we're on the free plan for the community, and that's unfortunately like a pretty hard limit. Otherwise, I think we have to pay like $9 per person per month, so there's a significant cost involved like if we want to like raise the limit. But what we've been doing on the support side of things, like we've been reviewing those questions at least on a weekly basis at the end of the week, and I mean, you know, at some point we might decide to implement a more sophisticated like a tool, but we're manually like going through questions and say, does this like require improvement in either in our product or documentation? So we're trying to look at that more proactively so that we don't lose things like after we reach the 10,000 limit. But I mean, Pavel and RTM, feel free to add anything I may have missed there. But
Yeah, I think that all that Ray mentioned here, kind of that's the process recently implemented. One thing I wanted to kind of follow up here is lately started to ask people to repost question to Stack Overflow, which we believe could be a good, you know, like a FAQ place, and it's really well searchable from the Google. So the new, you know, like new users of the Cube.js, when they see that common errors, they would just be able to go to Google, search it, and then go to Stack Overflow and find the answer. And from, you know, like our side, we constantly monitor Stack Overflow for new questions. So that's kind of where the place where we plan to build this based off the frequently asked questions. But if, you know, anyone have any suggestions here, we're happy to kind of consider different options. But as you know, like being a developer, Stack Overflow seems to be the right place for the job.
That does make a lot of sense. Thank you.
yeah, I mean, good point about Stack Overflow, because I mean, typically when you do a Google search, that's usually one of the top sites that gets listed. So I mean, that's I think that's the reason why it. I mean, you certainly don't have the 10,000 message limit, right? So even if the post was made 2 years ago, you'll be able to find it. So, all right. Any other questions? Yeah, I mean, Juan's, I think, reiterating the point. I guess, you know, he was encouraged to post something on Stack Overflow, but yeah, I mean, Slack, I think it's a great tool. I mean, I don't, you know, I think a lot of us love using it. It's good for quick discussions, but it's certainly hard to use it as a knowledge base or knowledge management tool. So cool. Any other questions or comments? All right, well, once again, I mean, thanks for joining our inaugural call. I'm really thrilled. You know, definitely look forward to meeting a lot of you. And I think I did this with a number of people on the call. Like, I love doing coffee chats with community members. Just DM me, and happy to jump on a call, and love to get to meet you individually as well. So, all right, so we'll wrap things up, and we'll do this again next month, and hopefully you'll have a good rest of the week. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ciao.